Thank you for being here. When you're ready, come find a comfortable seated position. And just making sure that you have some props on hand that might be useful. Any blocks or blankets, pillows or cushions or bolsters. If you have a long yoga strap, it might be useful today. And just making sure that you can hear my voice. You do not have to see the screen, however. So taking a few moments here just to settle in, organize your space. Turn down any lights that you'd like, maybe just light a candle. And then find your way to a simple cross-legged position or any other seated position that works right now. And allowing yourself to start to settle into your body. Start to wash your breath through your core. Taking a few deeper breaths. Just drinking the inhalation in, letting it last a little longer. Letting the breath go, emptying out. Can add a little sighing sound. Every breath that follows here, let yourself sink a little deeper into feeling, just feeling sensation, breath moving. Today, in this practice, we're focusing on creating support so that the body feels held, feels your attention, and any amount of unwinding, relaxing that can happen moment to moment, just observing, making adjustments as we go. So you find a place where your breath can move and your body can start to shift and settle. And we'll begin practice from here, moving into about 5 rounds, 5 breaths of Bhramari. That exhalation plus sound, and the sound is a hum. So we hum our exhalation out. Just noticing, feeling your hands. And if there is an area of your body that you'd like to bring your hands to, somewhere near the heart, the belly, maybe there is a spot somewhere in the body that kind of has popped up in your attention. You can bring your hands there. And just scanning and feeling for a moment from the bottom of your hips to the very top of your skull, and feeling that distance, that vertical line through the center of you, and that your tone, the change in tone as you hum, will vibrate along this channel. So if you want to vibrate more up near the head, the areas near the head, the neck, the shoulders, your humming sound might have a higher pitch, a higher tone. Near the center, near the heart, Down in the upper abdomen, more of a middle tone. And then low to reach down in the hips and the pelvis. Maybe even imagining it could go all the way down the legs to your feet. Just observing where you'd like to place your hands. And then as you're breathing here, imagining inside, what's the tone that would touch this part of you? And then we'll play with that. You can feel free to experiment till you find that vibration that you feel is actually accessing this place where your hands are. When you're ready, take a long time, just filling up with air. And then humming the breath out, reaching that buzz towards this part of your body where your hands are. And repeating this about 3 or 4 more times, just at your own pace, filling up with air and humming your breath out. Keep going a few more times. Finishing up the round that you're on. Letting your hands rest wherever they want to go next, maybe back to your lap. On your next breath, take a slow inhale, drinking the breath in, letting your ribs spread, lungs fill up. The very top of the breath, holding the breath there for just a moment. Maybe sigh the breath out through the mouth. So from here, come on down. If you're up on maybe some blankets or you're sitting up on something, see if you can come right down to the ground and come to badhakonasana with the legs and the feet. So bottoms of the feet touching and the knees are opening up right and left respectively. You can just experiment with how far do the heels need to go away from your groin so that that feels comfortable to you. And then setting up the fingertips back behind the hips on the ground behind you. And give yourself a moment just to play with sensing and feeling what your spine knows about lengthening out. So as you breathe here, just a couple of breaths. You find a place where your hips feel like they plug into the earth. And then anywhere along the spine that you are having an experience of maybe some feels condensed in there, it feels compressed or shortened. Just letting the spine feel the support, feet pressing into each other, hips pressing down into the ground. Maybe the fingertips are pressing down a little bit. As you're inhaling, noticing and feeling what those compressed areas know about lengthening out. As you exhale out, if it would feel good to open up across the chest a little bit more, you might send the shoulder blades in the back towards your spine, really subtle, just a little squeeze towards the spine. So hang out here in this shape for about 6 more breaths or so. You can stay here, keep playing with lengthening up, sitting up tall. Or on the next time you exhale out, come into a forward fold. So you can walk the hands forward, grab a hold of your legs or your feet. The hands might eventually reach the ground out in front of your legs. There is no goal here. The lower you go doesn't mean that you're getting more of a benefit out of this pose. In fact, finding the place where you still sense what your spine knows about length from the tip of the tailbone up the sacrum and then flowing through the spine, just feeling the different lengths along the spine, just sensing how that central channel knows how to be long. What happens if you let your head hang chin towards chest? Does that feel good in the back of your neck, back of your head? Mm. To come out of this pose, we'll simply come up on inhalations. The next time you're breathing in, your hands can walk in towards your hips. So the hands and arms are supporting the spine and the head to come all the way back upright. Bring your hands to the outside of your legs, help close the legs back together, help the hips, and then maybe stretch the legs straight out, let them shake out, point and flex your feet. Yeah. Now, if you have a strap, or this could be like a belt or a t-shirt, we'll do some supine hip opening this evening, this practice. So laying on our back, we'll experiment with making some space around the hip. It might be useful to have something that will bring your foot to your hands. So when you have that prop, if it's handy, come lay down on your back. And set up with your knees bent, your feet flat on the floor. Before we go right into the sequence, let's take a moment to do just a little bit of spinal movement before we stretch. So we can think of this again like last week's practice, like a cat and cow from laying on the back. So we'll be doing this flow back and forth, the movement of the pelvis and the low spine. So just notice, sense, and feel here as your feet connect into the ground, supporting your legs. Then you sense and feel the right side of the back of the pelvis, that right side of the sacrum and the glutes, the left side of the sacrum and the glutes. This here is neutral. So we'll all have slightly different patterns, slightly different shapes, our own unique expression of this human form, body, perfectly yours. From here, from neutral, the next time you inhale, we'll let the waistline, the belt line, the belly, as you're inhaling, start to round towards the ceiling, the lower back arching away from the ground. So there's our inhalation. And then as you're exhaling, allowing yourself to settle back to neutral and then go beyond neutral and start to feel the lower back, the lower spine flattening towards the ground a little bit more. Inhale, the waistline rounds towards the ceiling, the lumbar spine, low spine arches from the floor. And when you find yourself exhaling, letting yourself settle out of that shape and then go the opposite direction, feeling the low spine flatten towards the ground. You might feel your mid-back, low ribs press a little bit towards the floor. And now that you're feeling this pattern, let yourself take a few all on your own. And again, we don't have to push to your furthest version of this, like as far as you could go. Really think of this as rocking your pelvis, rocking your spine. So you're just going to take just the right amount that feels soothing or pleasurable. Yeah. No need to force, no need to push. Okay, so we'll do this a handful more. You can keep playing with this variation, or a step further, or another version that you could experiment with is let your legs stretch straight out along the floor. Straight out and down. And I like when I do this variation to really focus on the movement from the perspective of your pubic bone. So right above the genitals, that bony protrusion that comes out below your belly button and above the genitals. When you're inhaling, feel for pointing the feet and sending the pubic bones away from your belly button. So there'll be a subtle arching of the low back. And then on exhale, flex the tops of the feet towards the shins. Press out and down towards the edge of your mat through your heels, and feel for a bit of a flattening of the low back spine towards the floor. So a lot subtler than when you have your feet planted. So again, it's inhale to point the toes, feel the pubic bones moving away from the belly button. Exhale to flex the feet back towards the shins, press out through the heels, feel pubic bones moving towards the belly button. So let's do this like a handful more, maybe 4 or 5 more times, 4 or 5 more breaths. You can always go back to knees bent if that felt better for you. Then eventually, just let yourself stop. Let yourself come to resting. And let all the weight of your body sink back into the earth. And on your next breath, play with feeling what a full cycle of breath, a full breath feels like at this point in practice. So you're really luxuriating, like inhaling as long as you can, as slow as you can. Take your time. Exhaling out equally slowly. So from here, if you have that prop handy, like the strap or the shirt, keep it within grabbing distance, bend both knees. Put your feet back on the ground. We'll start on the left side. So we're working the left leg. Pick up the left leg. Knee comes in towards the chest. Grab a hold of whatever you can reach, the shin, the knee, your clothing, behind your thigh. Knee to chest. As you're inhaling, you might just allow the leg to drift away from the belly, giving the belly room to round as you inhale. And then when it's exhalation time, using your hands to help you hug the leg towards the belly, almost like the leg is pressing the breath out. What happens when you allow the leg to drift away as you inhale and hug in closer as you exhale? And then if you have it, grabbing your strap, your prop, putting it around the bottom of the sole of your left foot, and then extending the leg up towards the ceiling. And just grabbing a hold of your prop, supporting the leg with the prop in your hands. Just let this leg go straight up towards the ceiling. And maybe continuing a little bit of movement at the ankle. Inhale to point the toes up towards the ceiling. Exhale to flex the foot back towards the shin. If you haven't already, try exhaling and straightening the right leg out along the floor. Imagine that you're standing on your right leg so you can flex the right foot, reach out through the right heel. And play with what does it feel like to take a full breath in this shape. Keeping the right leg straight on the floor, or rebend the knee, put the right foot back down on the ground. Doing a bit of an opening for our inner left leg and hip. So both ends of the strap, the prop can go into your left hand. The palm of your right hand, place that on the front of your right hip. As you inhale, sense and feel the back of the pelvis, the impression that the back of your pelvis is making in the ground. And try to maintain that as you exhale and open very slowly, a little bit at a time, the left leg to the left, and only go as far as you feel like you can keep the impression of the back of your pelvis, the back of your sacrum, planted in the ground, the same way it was when your leg was straight up. And just a little reference point there. And if it feels like you start to roll, just maybe bringing the left leg back in a little bit. Use the right hand and just add a little bit of a press. Press your right hand into your right hip. Imagine that you're gluing the back of the right hip, the back of the butt on that side into the ground. What does it feel like to take a full breath here? When you're ready to reset, inhale to bring the leg back up towards the ceiling. Bring your props, the ends of the strap, into the right hand for a twist. So let's actually set this up. There's two options you have here. So we got our left arm just resting on the ground. Our right hand is taking care of the straps. A slow inhale. So the very first variation isn't much of a twist. It's more of just a lengthening through the outside leg line. As you exhale, you can bring this left leg across midline over to the right until you find some interesting sensation along the outside of your left leg. Feel this anywhere along the leg, from the outside of your foot and ankle, through the lower leg, up the thigh, into the outside of your hip and into your glute, perhaps. If you sense that what your body would like to do is explore more of a rotation, more of a twist, and the next time you exhale, keep going. So you're taking this leg across and letting the pelvis turn to the left. Pardon me. You're letting your pelvis turn to the right. Right leg also rolls to the right. Just find a place for the left arm that helps your left side chest and shoulder feel maybe a pleasant stretch, or it feels neutral. So we're in a laying down spinal twist for about 2 more full breaths. And feel free to adjust, maybe a little bend of the knee, maybe coming out of such a deep twist so that you find a place where your breath flows, feels like it can move more fluidly. When you're ready to transition to the final shape, as you're inhaling, slowly unwind all the way back to center for half happy baby. So we can keep this right leg straight on the floor. As you exhale, bending the left knee, you can use your prop or just grab your leg or your foot with your left hand. If that feels like a little bit too much sensation across the groin or the hips, we can always bend the right knee, put the sole of the right foot back down on the floor. Let yourself hang out here about 3 more breaths. Perhaps revisiting what we looked at last week. Just noticing, feeling all the way down toward the pelvic floor. You feel any sense of a widening and expanding as you inhale at the genital muscles. And what sensations happen as you exhale? Is there any movement there? And when this feels complete to you, we can lose the prop, just set it off to the side. Bit of a reset, hug the left knee towards the chest, like all the way up at the top of that sequence. And then on an exhalation, let your left foot come back down to the ground. So before we go to the other side, with either your knees bent, feet flat on the floor, let your legs stretch all the way out on the ground. Take a few moments here to rest and to sense your physical body from the inside. Feeling the body as hemispheres. Scan and feel the left side of your body. Notice the right side of your body. Eventually, set up for the other side, bending both of your knees and putting your feet right on the ground again. Right side, pick up the right foot. Hug the right knee in towards the chest. Knee to chest. So a handful of breaths here. Find a pace and a rhythm for your breath that feels full. That feels round and complete. So you can take as much time as you need. And it might be helpful to really slow the breath down. From here, you can grab the strap or the prop and put it around the bottom of the right foot. As you exhale, extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. If you like to add some movement here for the ankle, you might inhale to point the foot, exhale to flex the foot towards the shin. Letting yourself move slowly through places that feel sticky and enjoy the parts through the movement that feel like really fluid. Eventually bring both ends of the strap into your right hand. Left palm on the front of your left hip. A slow inhale. Notice the impression that the back of your pelvis is making on the ground. And as you move really slowly, exhale to open up the right leg to the right, only going as far as you continue to maintain that same impression of the back of your pelvis into the ground. So it might surprise you. Even if you have the flexibility to keep going, just challenging ourselves, challenging our core, more so challenging ourselves to listen to the core. Where can you find that balance? Pelvis still plugged into the ground. Now our left knee can be bent, or the left leg can extend out along the floor. Imagine that you're standing on that left leg. From here, inhale to bring the leg back upright towards the ceiling. And you have those options again. Switch what the hands are doing. Give the ends of the strap into the left hand. Right arm lays on the floor. So the very first version of this is as you exhale, bringing the right leg across midline to the left, towards the left, and just pausing wherever you feel some interesting sensation anywhere in the right leg, maybe most notably on the outside of the left leg, outside of your right leg. Right and left are mysterious to me today. So we're feeling that outer right leg line. And then if you're interested, what happens when you keep going and you continue into a spinal twist, rolling the right leg even further to the left, pelvis turns to the left, we can roll out onto the outside of the left foot and leg. So anywhere along the way there, pausing where it feels interesting or it feels pleasurable to you, and then experiment here. How does it feel to take a full, complete breath cycle? Feeling all the way through the inhalation, that moment of transition at the very top, all the way through the exhalation. And again, there's that moment of transition from one breath to the next one. Inhale to unwind all the way back to center. Your right hand can help with the straps now. Half happy baby is the last piece of the sequence. If it feels maybe a little more accessible to bend the left knee, put the left foot on the floor, you can come back to that place. We're bending the right knee. External rotation of the right leg. And you can grab a hold of whatever you can reach. You can keep using the strap and letting your hand kind of reach the foot via the strap, or grab your hand around the ankle, the shin, your thigh. As you breathe here, feeling down into the pelvis, down to the root, the foundation of your core at your pelvic floor. And allowing the low belly and the upper belly to round as you breathe. Soften as you exhale out. All right, so take a little extra time here if you need it. When you feel satisfied with that, come back to knee to chest. You can set the prop off to the side if it's no longer useful. Hug knee to chest. Just one more breath. And then set that right foot down. Yeah. And let yourself take a moment just to sense hips, legs, feet. Just place your arms perhaps straight out left and right, about the height of the shoulders. Maybe feels good to open up across the chest. You can come into cactus arms, bending the elbows, backs of the hands are touching the ground. So there's a little psychophysical movement for our hips, our knee, our ankle. Just one leg at a time. You might, depending on like the surface that you're on, your sticky yoga mat might kind of create some friction and make this feel not as smooth. If you put a blanket down, if you want to be able to slide or put a sock on, it might help. But basically, let's start back on the left leg, the left hip, both knees bent, feet flat on the floor. Let the left leg fall open to the left, keeping the right foot and the right knee mostly still, just the left leg moving. From there, start to straighten, just slide this foot and leg straight out towards the bottom edge of your yoga mat, your spot. Feel the thigh rotate until the heel is touching the ground. The toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. You're reaching out through the heel. Knee is extended. From there, think of it mostly just the foot. The heel is touching the ground as you slowly and gently drag your foot, slide it as best you can along the floor, back to the starting position, and then let the rest of the foot just settle into the ground. So this external rotation, internal rotation, then dragging the foot back, heel towards butt to the starting position. Well, this is about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 5 more times. Let your leg open to the left. And then stretch the leg out, press it down until you found full extension. Reach out through the heel. Imagine you're kind of standing through this left leg. Keep a little flex to the foot, just keeping contact with the ground through the heel. Start to slowly drag as best you can. Your foot back, heel towards butt. Back to where it started. Let the rest of the foot just settle into the ground. Talk us through one more. Let the left leg open to the left. Knee falls open. Almost like you're in half of a badhakonasana. Push out through the foot, straightening the knee along the floor. Just let that foot push forward until you finally come to the place where heel is pressing down, toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. Keep contact with the ground through the heel as you drag your foot back. Do that 2 more times for yourself. So you can just find a pace that just feels really good for you. Now that you know the pattern, just let your body find a rhythm at a pace with that just flows. Let your breath continue to flow comfortably. And maybe the round you're on is your final round, and finishing up. Ah. And then that one's always kind of fun to, again, compare. Let yourself feel your body as hemispheres, letting both of your legs stretch straight out, getting as relaxed as you can. And notice the left side of your body, what that feels like inside the left side of your body. And then what does it feel like to be inside of the right side? And we'll play with that for our right hip, our right knee, our right ankle. Bend both knees, put the feet flat on the ground again, about hip distance wide. So another way you can play with this is how narrow or wide your feet are, how close to your butt are your heels. And remember, we're just moving the right leg now. The left leg will stay mostly still. We might kick it off with an inhale. As you inhale, letting the right leg and foot fall open to the right. External rotation. From there, starting to just let the foot stay on the floor, push it forward as you straighten your knee, straightening the leg out along the ground, down, till you're reaching through your heel and you're flexing your foot towards your shin. As best you can, keeping contact with the ground with your heel, drag your heel towards your sit bone, back to the starting position. Leg and foot fall open to the right. Straightening out the knee along the ground. Dragging the heel towards the sit bone, bending the knee again, finding the starting position. Let the foot take a moment before you go in through that process, like you go into the next round. You just let yourself take a longer pause. Let the foot just stand and then repeat. Do that a couple more times. When I do this, I sort of imagine like I'm swimming. If it helps you to go slower, imagine that you have a little bit of resistance, like you're swimming through honey. Pushing through some, like the air is more viscous. Couple more times. Maybe this round is your final round. Eventually coming to rest. And again, we need to change up. I needed to move where my arms were there, so you can always readjust the position of your arms. Perhaps straighten out your legs for a moment here. Sense and feel your body. Notice what it feels like to take a full, round, complete breath. From here, bend both knees, roll over onto one side, gently press yourself up. And we'll set up for a supported chest opener, sort of like a combo. You can do both the chest opening part, and then depending on how you set up your knees, you might also have some hip opening here. So here's where some of those props can come in handy. We basically want to create somewhat of an incline if we can. So I have two blocks here. just stacking them on top of each other at the kind of head of my yoga mat. I have a bolster. This could be a couch cushion or maybe a stack of blankets. And I've just got an incline here, leaning this bolster up against that stack of blocks. So I find it's the easiest version of this for me is I really like the blanket. If you have another blanket, or this could be a towel, but basically make it long, maybe fold it in half once, and then roll it up. So you have a long snake-like blanket or towel, something like this. The back of our sacrum, so we're going to sit our butt pretty close up against our incline, the base of our incline. And here's what this blanket snake is for. If you'd like to experience this in supported badhakonasana, this is one way you can do it. So you can set your feet up in baddha, bottoms of the feet together, knees open wide. So we're revisiting the shape here. Then the snake, our blanket snake, put it across the inner arches of your feet. So they're on top, the blanket's going across them on top. Then close your knees a little bit, and the ends of the snake, bring them in, tuck them in up against your hip, and then let the knee fall open. And do both sides, and then you just have to experiment with getting them underneath the thighs and hips so it feels like your legs can settle open into their support. This could also be like a pair of blocks or pillows if you don't have a blanket. So once you have your legs set up, you might end up choosing to ditch this part of it. But we're laying back so your hands can come back on either side of your props behind you, and just really gently lower your spine, lay back on this support. Now for me, it's almost just like this particular bolster is like almost a tiny bit too short for me. So if it feels like your head is hanging off, if you have like one more blanket and just set it up at the very top of your bolster or your cushion, it'll maybe extend and give you just that little bit of pillow. That's what I need. So check it out. As you settle back here, we want to feel like our pelvis can find a neutral position that feels good. You can kind of cinch cinch the badhakonasana legs in a little bit more, or open them up, take the heels away from the groin. So that's a variable. And then letting the arms rest. You might bring the hands to your belly or to your hips, or letting the arms left and right kind of lay on the floor, palms facing up towards the ceiling. To feel a comfortable stretch across the front of the chest and the shoulder. So if that feels a little too taut, I invite you to find a different angle or a different position for your arms. And then spending a few moments here, just supported by the earth and these props. And practicing really listening for those moments where you feel the nervous system starting to rest. Now picking up on those sensations. How do we feel inside the body when the body is starting to relax? There's no particular way that you need to breathe to control your breath right now, but it might be interesting to focus on any movement you can detect at your pelvic floor muscles as you breathe. Or any gripping happening at the pelvic floor that might be able to start to soften now. And scanning and feeling if there's anything about this pose that just feels like you want to adjust to make it even more comfortable. One other variation of the arms. Let's see if this works for me. That's a little too much of a stretch. If your bolster or your cushion is longer than mine, you might grab a hold of opposite elbows and let your arms rest above your head. But for me, I don't have enough support there. So they're kind of just hanging in midair. But if you kind of have a little extra bit of prop above your head, that may feel good. If there's not anything to adjust here, just try a little bit kind of a shift, resettle. And then on your next exhale out, see if you can soften back into the earth even deeper. So you might be enjoying this position. This could be where we hang out for Shavasana. Maybe you like the chest opening, but the badhakonasana shape, you want something different for your hips. You could just bend your knees, bring the legs back together, and have your feet right on the ground. Soles of the feet down, knees bent. You could also let the legs stretch straight out here, making sure that that feels okay for the sacrum and the low back. Or if you'd like a different position for your Shavasana for our final relaxation pose, just go ahead and let the knees come back together and gently and slowly roll off to one side, just bracing yourself with your arms and your hands. You might come up and rearrange your spot so that maybe you want to lay all the way down on the ground. There could be a little bit of pillow underneath the back of your head, some bolster or blanket underneath your knees, and definitely making sure that you are warm enough. Maybe a blanket over you. We're just easing our way into this last pose, Shavasana. As you rest deeper, following any sensation that arises, that connects you to feeling the support of the ground, the support of the earth, that connects you to clues that show you your body is unwinding, your body feels that ease of stress moving out of the body, what that feels like. Allowing your body to stay resting. Experience these next couple breaths, just bringing your awareness back to your breathing. And touching with your awareness, this sense, this knowing what your body knows about a full breath, that full cycle of breath. Doesn't matter how deep the breath goes. Doesn't matter how long it lasts. In this space, safe and warm, at rest, what does your body know about breathing fully and completely? I invite you, if this feels good, stay here, continue to rest. Or if you prefer, begin to make any movements to start your journey back to a comfortable seated position now. Really take your time. Maybe spending a little bit of time laying on your side. before eventually coming back up to sitting. And here we'll close practice. There is a sense, if you tune into your hands, to the palms of your hands, are they attracted? Are they magnetized? They want to touch some part of your body, maybe around the heart or the belly or your hips, anywhere. There's no wrong place to hold yourself. One suggestion, if it's helpful to have a guide, it might be one hand over the heart, and then take the other to the opposite shoulder, just resting your hand on the top of the shoulder. One hand holding the heart, the other hand crossing over, holding the top of its opposite shoulder. And just one more time, one more round to enjoy what it feels like to take a full cycle of breath here together. Finishing the breath that you have inside. Slowly inhaling, taking your time filling up. Exhaling out equally as slowly. Opening up and receiving the gift of your practice today. Thank you all so much for sharing your practice with me. I'll see you next time. Mwah. Be well, everyone.